Hi, I'm Frank Masiosi for HTTV, and I'm here today with my good friends Jordan Glatt and Brett Hare. Welcome back. You guys have been here a number of times in the past, but this time is special. This is the inaugural episode, if you will, of a new program called Summit Speaks. And we're going to sort of set the stage, and there will be numerous episodes after this in which you will see Jordan and Brett, not me, but others. So, Other Fella First Foundation. Brett, when was it founded? Why was it founded?
It was founded in 2000 by Jimmy Graberis, who owns the Summit Diner, and myself, largely to provide a safety net for the less fortunate in the community who from time to time run into brick walls. They're too small for the Red Cross to care. But we decided that we would create a fund that would help people in distress. And the simple mission statement of our foundation is we exist to assist New Jersey families in distress.
Okay. And it was, so that's your mission. It was started by you and,
Jimmy Graberis.
okay, of the Summit Diner.
Right.
And that is your headquarters.
World headquarters.
World headquarters.
World headquarters.
Okay, all right. Any particular reason?
Yes. There used to be a TV show called Cheers, and there was a song in Cheers that had a...
You're not going to sing, are you?
No, I'm not going to sing. But
Feel free.
everybody, you would go to this bar because everybody knew your name.
Mm-hmm.
So the Summit Diner is a very intimate place. It's almost 100 years old. When you look on Google for a diner in New Jersey, it is always the diner that comes up. It's
Really?
the iconic epitome of what a New Jersey diner looks like. We were looking for a place that sort of exuded warmth, welcoming in its character, and the diner checks all those boxes. You get to see your food being cooked. There's no pretense. When John Corzine was the governor of the state, and he was waiting for a cup of coffee, he was behind the garbage man, and that was
Yeah.
appropriate. Because
That's one of the things I like best about the diner. It brings everybody together, the rich and the poor, and there's no difference. And it's when I go there, I always see somebody that I know, and it's nice. It's just nice. Jordan, have you been involved from the start?
Not from the start. I guess it started when I was mayor, right?
Yep.
You get calls, you know this as well as I do, Frank. People are in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
I
always said call the mayor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Hot water heater broke. Family doesn't have money for the repair. They have kids, no hot water. What do you do, right? And, after a while, you can try and help personally. But the Other Fellow First became kind of, we use the term a shock absorber, in that it helps families get through their bad day. We're not there forever for them. But that's kind of how it started. I call Brett and I say, I got this call. Can you guys help? And I just kind of fell into a routine with them.
Okay.
Been involved ever since.
Okay. And it's not just the two of you. It's a bigger board. Can you rattle off the names of the board members?
Sure.
I'm sure
Jordan-
many
Jordan-
of them are known by members of the community.
Well, Jordan's the boss. We have 8 directors. Jordan, Jimmy and I are the co-founders. Then there's Mary Cummins, who is the owner of Marigolds. Courtney Zanelli, who has been a long-time Summit family. Neil Trangucci, who long-time Summit family. And my two sons, Jamie and David.
Okay.
So there's 8 of us on the
Okay.
board.
Okay. So, what's your business model, so to speak? If you're helping people, it involves raising money, yes? So how does that work?
Well, it's pretty simple. We have an annual letter that we send out, usually around the first part of November, an appeal letter. That's really the only fundraising that we do. We've been exceptionally fortunate. The town has been very generous to us. We don't have a balance sheet of consequence. We don't have an endowment. We have to ask every year for people to renew their faith and confidence in us. And so we raise a bunch of money in the last month or so of the year. And over the following 12 months, we give most of it away.
I would guess that when there's an event, somebody needs help, that also draws funding, does it not?
I'm going to let Jordan answer that. We've had a number of fires and
So the answer is yes. The other piece is we're kind of, a lot of times we use our funds as a catalyst, if you will. We'll be the first money in,
Okay.
but then we go and tell the story to the community. And I think that about the need, using the newspaper, the local papers or TAP, telling their story and what we're trying to accomplish. And I think, not to sound overly egotistical about this group, when we put our moniker on it, the community feels comfortable helping an individual family. They realize it's for real, that it's not a scam.
Yep.
And the community reacts very generous to these individual events as we go along.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's my perception as well. It's like a seal of approval.
Right.
So let's talk about some of these events, these good deeds that you've done, with maybe a little bit of detail, if you can. Jordan, you want to kick that one off?
So there's so many stories, and so probably the one that probably touched me the most. We had a gentleman, 2 twins in town, who worked in town, 2 brothers, and they both had a fatal heart disease that they needed heart transplants, and they didn't have the money for the medical care. They were basically hourly workers. And we funded them so that they could get the testing and go through that whole process. Unfortunately, one of the brothers passed away because he couldn't get a heart transplant fast enough. But the other brother got a new heart. My understanding is perfectly healthy now. Went from not being able to walk up a flight of stairs to doing everything. And not only did we get the community involved, at the time our congressman picked up on the story and from the House floor used it as a plea that nobody should have to do a GoFundMe in order to pay their medical bills, and used him as an example.
Wow.
So that was, and it's great whenever I see him in town. It's just, his story is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
young guy,
Yeah.
very young
How,
guy.
how old?
I'd say he's in his late 20s now,
Yeah.
maybe. And what's more exciting, the last time I think I saw him, married with a child.
Nice.
So it's
Good
it's a great-
story.
yeah.
Good story. Brett, you got a favorite story? Can't beat that one. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's tough to beat that one. I'm going to pick two. One is a story about the Summit Volunteer First Aid Squad. In addition to helping families in distress, we like to deal with and get close to organizations that have a similar mission. And the rescue squad is about as close an example of that kind of an organization. And I'm going to guess it was 8 or 9 years ago. The fellows who were running the rescue squad at the time were convinced that they needed to rebuild the entire squad because the building was made out of poured concrete, and every time there needed to be a renovation for a bigger fire or for bigger emergency equipment, it was a royal pain. The roof was constantly leaking, and they needed to rebuild the place. And they hired a consulting outfit, a fundraising consultant, and the consultant surveyed a bunch of people in town and determined that on Summit's best day, with the stock market doing well, maybe the town would support a $2.5 million campaign. And they paid $50,000 for this study. Jordan and I looked at the study, and we kind of both concluded at the same time, these people are idiots. You know, if $2.5 million is the best that this town can do, they don't know this town. So we suggested that they fire the consultant, which they did. And in 18 months, we raised $5 million for them to rebuild the rescue squad building, which was a very gratifying experience because it gave us the opportunity to tell the story of the rescue squad. And a lot of organizations that do God's work in this town are great at what they do. But they're very selfless people, and they don't like blowing their own horn. So when you're in the back of an ambulance and you're sleeping at the rescue squad one day a week, and you got to raise $5 million, these guys are very uncomfortable, these men and women, saying, hey, help me. That's not in their culture. Their culture is to help others. They don't like asking for help. And so we sort of by default backed into this storytelling business for other organizations. And we raised the $5 million for the rescue squad. We raised $500,000 for the firehouse. We helped raise the money for the community center. So in addition to helping individual families, we also try to help other organizations in town that have a similar mission. The other example of something that I think has become a very significant part of Summit's DNA is on the Sunday before Thanksgiving at the Summit Diner from 1 to 4. For the last 16 years, we've had a turkey drive. And 3 hours, the drive is for the benefit of the New Jersey Community Food Bank. And a lot of towns in the state of New Jersey participate. But over the years, we've managed to be one of the top producing towns for that drive. And in aggregate, over 16 years, we've collected over 50 tons of turkey, about 40 tons of groceries, and about $120,000 in financial donations, all of which are collected from 1 to 4 at the corner of the Summit Diner. So those two examples of what we've done for the community are things that kind of stick out in my mind.
There's one I remember a couple of years ago, and I'm pretty sure you guys were involved, the fire that occurred in the apartment building on Summit Avenue. It's now been rebuilt.
Yes.
But you were involved in
Yes.
that, weren't you, Jordan?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, that is a typical type of event that we would get involved in, unexpected emergency. People are literally out on the street.
Mm-hmm.
What do, right? No money, no clothes, and we'll put that first money in to get them a hotel, get them some clothes, and then hopefully the community will rally around us to provide further aid.
Yeah. I saw one that came out of the blue. I mentioned it to you just before we started, Brett, that I saw on an app on my phone a couple of hours ago. And I couldn't catch the full story from what I read, but something about a crossing guard in a new home. This has just happened.
Yeah, Mayor Fagan called us a couple days ago, said we had this problem with a crossing guard who'd been working for Summit for 15 years, had fallen on hard times and was going to be homeless. And could we help? Which is, a typical kind of a phone call that we would get. The way we operate, we don't have committees. There's one board, and the mayor put her story into an email. We shared the email with the board. In 3 hours, it was unanimous, and a $3,000 gift was made available to this gentleman who used that to sustain a new apartment for himself and get himself back on his feet. What we found, Frank, is that when somebody has a real problem, a lot of times what they need is much, much more than we can provide.
Right.
But the first dollar that shows up does two things. One, it addresses the immediate gun to the temple problem, and it awakens the voice in all of us called hope. That maybe if somebody's responded as quickly to my problem as these folks have, maybe I'm not in as bad a situation as I thought. And like I said, this is a very generous town. People in this town love to give. I think it's in all of us. As human beings, it's much more pleasurable to give than to get. And a lot of people have told Jordan and me over the years that they're very grateful for our existence because they would love to be in a position to help people, but they don't know about the problems.
Now, you found out about this particular problem because from Mayor Fagan.
Yes.
And I know you've had working relationships with a whole series of mayors. Is that typically how you find out about a problem?
We call them almost radar stations, right? We have very good relationships with the fire department, police department, the schools.
Okay.
People think of them as nodes in the community where they're seeing a lot of people, they see the problems, and they know to give us a call when they see them. It's not unusual. Like I can see sometimes if I'm, where you see something come across where there's a fire in town, I can almost guarantee you in a few hours, we'll get a call from the police chief saying, hey, we need help.
Wow.
Not the police or fire chief, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they just know we're there. And as Brett was saying, our speed is really part of our secret sauce. That, they don't have to wait a month for the committee to meet to get the money. I mean, it is sometimes.
Usually hours.
Yeah, it's hours.
Yeah. Truly remarkable. Yeah. Are you aware of other organizations like this in other towns? I'm not. It's very special.
I never asked.
No, I don't know.
Yeah. It's good. It's incredible. So, you have a 25th anniversary coming up. What's that all about?
Well, that's we're trying to figure that out.
Okay. All right, okay.
We're in the process of trying to determine what sort of a celebration or event would be appropriate. We're hoping that the community will support us in whatever decision we make. We'd like to think that after 25 years, the diner and the feeling that we try to share with the community is something that after 25 years, they'd say, you know what, time to help you help others. So it's to be determined, but we're working on it. We're looking for a sponsor and maybe a couple, but that's all in the works. We've got a year to figure that out.
Okay. Well, you've got broad-based community support, so I know it's going to be a success. So we only have a minute or two left. Is there anything that we've forgotten to cover? I guess you could probably go on telling stories all evening. Huh?
So one thing I think people need to understand, we have, I can say very comfortably 100% of the money that's contributed goes out to individuals.
That's worth repeating, 100%.
Right? I mean, there's no overhead. It's all volunteer.
I don't know of a nonprofit.
I mean, the only thing that may, somebody could catch me on is like web design or anything like that, but it's minuscule in relationship. You're going out into a decimal point based of what we give.
Truly remarkable. Speaking of the web, and I know that your website is going to be shown as a crawler along the bottom of the TV screen, but can you just say it out loud, your website, so that people know?
It's www.otherfellowfirst.org.
Okay, pretty easy to remember.
And I would ask or add to what Jordan said, this TV series is, our objective is to put on display for everyone in the community who wants to watch it an opportunity to sit down with some of the truly outstanding people who live in this town. So that in a 20-minute conversation, it'd be like having a beer with somebody that you know is kind of special, but you don't know them. There's no real way for you to connect with them. And so our hope is that if we put interesting people on display, we'll bring attention to what we're trying to do. And these people will all be givers and folks who have the other fellow first in mind, in the way they live their lives, in the way that they make themselves available, and in ways that make them exceptional people.
So each of these people will be the subject of a future show.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, are these going to be people in leadership positions? Will they be people who are well known or may not be well known? Have you got a profile? all of that?
Yes, to all the above.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, we have there's a very interesting story about a waitress at the Summit Diner. Unfortunately, she's passed, but her name is Sandy Stewart. She was a legend.
I remember her.
At the diner.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, she passed. And Sandy Stewart would be an example of somebody who is unique to Summit, that we'd like to make people aware of. Maybe the chief of police, the mayor, people who are successful in business, people who are crossing guards. We don't really distinguish in any way who we help, because all of us have good days and bad. Most of us are fortunate, have more good days than bad days. But as the Frank Sinatra song says, you know, you're riding high in April and you're shot down in May. The true measure of a human being, in my mind, is not how high you fly, but it's how high you bounce. And we like to help people bounce. And so the people we're going to try to interview and bring to everybody's living room are folks that inspire confidence and make people proud that they live in Summit.
Well, Other Fellow First is truly a remarkable organization, and this is a great kickoff for the episodes that follow. I know you're going to have a lot of viewers because I'm wondering already who you're going to talk to and what their story is, and so I'm looking forward to watching all of them.
And
so,
we might just turn the tables on you.
Thank you,
So
Mr.
thank you
President.
very much
Thank you,
for
Frank.
joining us here
Thanks.
today.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Frank.
Thanks, Jordan.